Okay, House of Payne fans, so the last episode was Breakup to Makeup, Season 13, Episode 12. When Miranda helps Calvin take care of a sick Christian, Calvin has a big realization. Now, this episode was good, but it felt a bit disjointed. Like there were a couple of scenes that were, I don't know, either out of order or they jump cut. Because, for example, we got a sneak peek of Jasmine actually seeing her parents getting ready to fix up a new entertainment center for the house. Also, Curtis and Ella were at the house for breakfast that Jasmine cooked. So I don't know if that was just a deleted scene or maybe that's going to be in the next episode or something, but I don't know. Wait, I think they were wearing those clothes too. I honestly couldn't tell you what was going on there. I just this episode felt like it was good, but some things just felt completely out of place. But yeah, so I'm giving this episode an 8 out of 10, but at the same time I feel like, it definitely suffered from being only 20 minutes long. So overall, the two storylines, technically three, CJ and Janine's, constant kind of like the episode itself, feeling disjointed in places. These two are working out the scuffs in their marriage, and it's something that's been an ongoing journey throughout the season, and I appreciate that, because just because you've been married to someone for so long doesn't mean it's all sunshine and rainbows. And then on top of that, you have the Floyd and Curtis. Will they be able to reconcile? Then the final big storyline is Calvin realizing that he's still in love with Miranda. So we'll kind of work backwards from here. Well, actually in the middle, the Curtis and Floyd stuff thankfully didn't take up a huge chunk of the episode. It's just that Ella tells CJ and Janine about what happened the day before, the fact that there was a huge argument. The two of them decided to split their business, and now it's a matter of, can they maintain their personal friendship even though their business partnership is over? CJ and Janine decide to take matters into their own hands and opt to be moderators to hopefully either make the quote-unquote business breakup clean, or even better, provide insight that can help them reconcile and get their food truck back on track. So in conjunction with CJ and Janine going through what they're going through, they have moments in the episodes where they pretty much are arguing about everything. And I don't know. I mean, and this isn't me trying to be, oh, it's all Janine, but more often than not, even though she isn't a Payne by birth, Janine shows a lot of negative traits of Curtis, because when you look at Curtis and Floyd and compare that to CJ and Janine, it's pretty much the same kind of, duo dynamic, where Janine and Curtis will go off at the drop of a dime. Even if someone brings something to their attention, like, hey, I don't know if it should be done that way, or, oh, here's a slight form of constructive criticism, and I'm coming from a place of concern and love, they will instantly go on defense, overreact, sometimes resort to violence, and then once everything is calmed down, oh, we're fine. Yeah, no, it's just the same thing over and over. I mean, these two are just arguing back and forth about crunchy versus soft cookies. So it gets to the point where Ella just talks about the fact that, they argue all the time, and sometimes it's just one of those things where, sometimes just have a clean break and go your separate ways. And then CJ accidentally slips up and says divorce, and Janine's ears perk up, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh gosh, like, here we go again. So CJ actually lies to Floyd, saying that, oh yeah, if you come over here, Uncle Curtis wants to apologize to you. So they're in the backyard. It's CJ and Curtis versus Janine and Floyd, which is the opposite of their personalities, believe it or not. And essentially it's just a matter of, talking things out and just trying to figure out how exactly to split things. And because he invested a lot of money into the business, Floyd, as Janine pointed out, is technically entitled to recouping what he put into the company. And just because it was stored at Curtis's home doesn't mean it's his. So CJ and Curtis get into it with Floyd and Janine. And essentially, during the conversation, you can definitely tell that this wasn't simply about the food truck business fiasco. The differences between CJ and Janine and what they've been going through in their marriage and marriage counseling came out during the debate. So then towards the end of the episode, they actually have a sweet scene where they talk it out, even though they kind of argue about it. And I don't know. It was a great scene, but it's just one of those things where it's kind of inconsistent, where you can't really have an episode where they're going at it for 95% of it, but then the last 5% they kind of reconcile. But then in the next episode, they're right back to their issues. So it's kind of weird how everything just feels like nothing was resolved, and any sort of resolution feels like it was rushed. Like, I don't think we deserve to get to that ending, if that makes any sense. And then we get to the main storyline, that being Laura is heading out, if I remember correctly, based on my notes here, because I did kind of just skim through the episode. Calvin would have had to have gone with Laura to a wedding planning situation, the wedding venue, which is something I thought they had picked out a long time ago. Like, I'm talking 2 or 3 seasons ago. And it would have been a day trip. And then you have Christian, who was going to a work picnic with Miranda. But then Calvin's like, hey, you know what? I've seen all the venues and I love them all. And honestly, I don't care where we get married as long as I get to kiss my bride. So I don't know. Why don't you take the bridesmaids and kind of make it like a girls trip out of it? So the 1-day trip turns to a weekend trip. And then from there, as soon as Laura leaves, Calvin hops on the phone with Miranda and says, hey, you know, change your plans, because I guess he was kind of planning just, you know, a weekend for him and his son. That way, neither one of them has to go to a boring function that, you know, they don't want to go to with the women. And then Christian gets sick. Miranda rushes over. And after, you know, she puts him to bed, she and Calvin, you know, drink a little wine and reminisce about, you know, the night that they got, well, the day they got married and coming through the condo for the first time as a couple through the threshold. And then when they first brought Christian home and then they slept on the floor. And then Calvin's promised to love her forever and ever. And then she got up and left because she realized where this was going. So later, he and Calvin Jr. go over to CJ's. And Calvin Jr. is sent outside to play with his cousin. So Calvin is talking with CJ about the fact that he loves Laura, but he's realizing that he's still in love with Miranda. And Jr. overhears, but then he rushes out of the room. And then CJ's like, hey, you need to think it over before you make the biggest mistake of your life. But Calvin does say something pretty interesting. It's just the fact that, well, I mean, you and Janine were married, but then you got a divorce. You had time separate to kind of grow. And then you both got back together. And you've been married for a long time since. And I'm like, yeah, you know, we're going through stuff right now, but I think we're even happier now than when we were first married. And that actually makes a lot of sense. So Calvin might be having second thoughts because of the fact that he's basically in the mindset of where Miranda was when the reboot first started. The fact that Calvin is mature, he has a better job, he's making more money, he's dependable, he's everything now that I wish he was when we were still married. So why can't we get back together? And now Calvin's in a situation where he definitely doesn't know what to do. So that leads into the end of the episode where Calvin Jr. was giving his dad some attitude, slamming doors and whatnot. And Calvin is yelling at him about the fact that, you know, you don't disrespect me. And Jr. talks about how he's playing 2 women and Calvin doesn't appreciate that. And then it was a domestic disturbance that was, you know, alerted the cops. So I guess these two have been, you know, having arguments since they stepped into the building, because that's the only way it makes sense for the cops to instantly show up like that. And that was the end of the episode. But yeah, overall, this was a good episode. It's just that I felt like in some places there were scenes that felt sped up or cut. So the episode was kind of meh. I will say though, the video I posted earlier before the episode aired is that Calvin just does not know how to act right once Laura goes out of town for whatever reason. Something tells me that even if they get married, Calvin just won't change. And that's a shame. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Interesting we get a cliffhanger like this. It makes me wonder if the next episode we follow up exactly where we left off. So like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.